Allowing your ex to be abusive is part of the plan with family court. If your judge is doing nothing to stop your ex from being abusive, just know it's part of their plan. Now, if you have a personal protection order, they violate it, you go into court and the judge slaps them on the hand, right? Gives them a little $50 fine, okay? And that's why, these people who are abusive, think it's kind of like a joke, right? It's just a piece of paper and, they violate it, they go in, it's a little $50 fine, whatever. I mean, they're like, yeah, it was worth it to torture him, right? But what you don't know is your judge is allowing this because this is part of their plan. So, what is the plan? So, the plan is mind control, keeping you off balance, and mental torture. So, mind control, making you feel as if though you're living in the twilight zone. I don't know how many times I said this over the years, going to court and I would leave and I would be like, oh my God, it's like I'm in the twilight zone. They keep the hearings confusing. They'll change dates. You'll go there and, you'll finally get your court after 2 hours of sitting there. And then they'll say, we're going to hear the hearing, whatever. They like to change times. They like to do little tricks here and there. They really like to keep you frustrated. Okay. They allowed the other party to not follow orders, but will punish you if you do not follow the orders. I used to say, oh, he would just kill me. And they'd be like, oh, give him custody and just move on with their life, right? Like nothing would ever happen. They would just go ahead and give him custody. So, tentative court hearings do not hold the other party accountable. So, he's violated an order. Like, let's go. I'm going to file a motion. I'm going to do a contempt of court hearing because he has violated the courts, violated the hearing from the courts, and they don't hold them accountable. They come up, they'll probably turn it around on you. It's something you did, or, one time I had where they sent my ex to counseling. He had 5 violations, sent him to counseling. He never went to counseling. I actually was advised by my attorney to go, so I went. And the counselor didn't take insurance, but I went. I paid the fee. He never showed up. We went into court and there were 3 more violations of the order. And the judge was like, I'm going to write my what do they call that? Like their response to the motion. He's like, I'm going to write it. I'll put it in writing and send it to you. Now, once I got it, I realized why he sent it to me in writing, because I would have literally lost my, blinking mind in the courtroom. So they completely ignored the 5 violations we were there, the $500 fine, unless he went to counseling. He didn't go to counseling. They didn't fine him. They said the order was changed. They're under a new order, and they only charged him $25 for the 3 violations that he had. So they ended up having to pay $75, and he probably didn't even pay that because, that's just kind of how they do it. So they want to keep you off balance is what they want to do. So they're making sure that there's unjust rulings to keep you off balance. The judge will ignore what you say, but they'll take their information as the gospel. So in family court or in civil court, they take hearsay information. So my ex could go in and he could say whatever he wanted to, have absolutely no proof of it, and they didn't care. I would say something, they would just kind of be like, yeah, right, you're lying, right, whatever, I would have proof of it. It's kind of interesting. If I had proof of it, one time I had proof in the guardian ad litem, like, we're just going to cancel this hearing, whatever. It never got rescheduled or anything because, I had proof I could actually prove and show. And they didn't want to do that because they were building a case to make him look like the great dad. And they were trying to build a case to make me not look like a good mother. So for the holidays, your ex, I'm going to tell you what, abusive people, when it comes to holidays, they get very emotional and they could be laying low. You don't have no issues. And the holiday's going to come up and they are going to start some issues. It happens every time. Plan on it on the holidays. They are going to have to create some chaos. They just always do. Um, they put fines in place if orders are ignored and then not hold the other party accountable. So we already talked about that, right? So they're doing things like, oh yeah, we're gonna, put this in place if, because say like my ex wouldn't show up for visitation to get the kids, he'd go into court, he'd cry and say, all I want to see is my kid. She's holding my kids to me, but I'm there. So I used to have to go meet at the police department. And then when he didn't show up, I'd have to wait an extra half hour. Then I'd have to go in and get a statement from the police department. Then I would have to file a form for a violation of the order. And then we would have to go to court after, so many months or so many of them. I think they tried to like wait till you got 5 of them. And then, yeah, nothing ever really happened. And then like the one time, they were going to fine him $500. It never happened. And then the mental torture. So giving physical, mental, or sexual abusers unsupervised visits actually is illegal. And it keeps you from protecting your child. If they allow your ex to take you to court every other month and the front of the court ends up having you come in for whatever reasons every other month to like an appointment or whatever, right? This is illegal abuse. So my ex literally every other month had me in court, and then I'd be in front of the court every other month. And when you do this stuff like every, for 8 months or for 12 months, right? Like it's always something. It's always this. It's always that. Nothing ever, whatever. Nothing ever turns out. Nothing ever goes the way it should go, right? This is all the mental torture. Okay. So, you get to the point where when you go to the mail, you're stressed out to go to get your mail, right? Like go into the mailbox because there's going to be another paper in there from the friend of the court, right? Another hearing, another this, another that, another friend of the court meeting. It just really people get traumatized from the mail. It's crazy. And it's always bad news. It's never anything that's good. It's never your case has been turned around. It's never the judge is finally like, ordering for the parent they should parent, because it's all part of the plan. So when the plan is to get you to the point where if you're not giving up custody of these kids and you're fighting, what they want to do is they want to get to a point where there's a psychological evaluation done on you. After they've tortured you and they've kind of wore you down. Now, they're not going to send the other party for a psych eval. It doesn't really matter if they did anyways, because their psych eval would be great. Yours is going to be horrible. You're going to expect to pay for the psychological evaluation when you can't afford it. Now, here's the thing. If the court orders you for something, they're technically supposed to pay for it. Right? So this happened to me. They're supposed to pay for it. They decided to pay for it, but they have their own contracted people, right? So that report, I didn't have no $650. I was a single mom with 2 kids, and so there's no way I could have paid no $650. So of course they're going to send you to their person, and of course, the results are going to turn out the way that they wanted to. The guardian ad litem actually talked with the psychiatrist who did my report, and that's actually illegal to do according to the American Psychological Association. I don't think they knew at that time I was getting my degree in mental health, and so I already knew that was not allowed. And I had met a girl like a year prior. She was like a counselor, and she said that she must have been a psychologist, but she said that she was licensed to be able to do the psychology testing. And she's like, I would really like to see it for what your results are. So I sent it to her, and I went and had a meeting. She didn't charge me, and she went through it, and she showed me all the discrepancies, and there was just discrepancies left and right. He would be like, he would say that I had a mental disorder, Then he would say I didn't have a mental disorder, but he never said like what disorder I had. But when we went into court, of course, you know, they're going to give him copies of the portion that says I have a mental disorder. So I'm sure he could show it to my kids and try and make me look even crazy. But I work in mental health. I've worked in mental health for 15 years. You can't work in mental health if you're crazy. And, you know, if you do have some issues, people are going to be calling you out on it because it's kind of what you do in mental health, right? We want our mental health workers, you know, to be healthy, and people will call you out and say you need to get help on this or that or whatever, or your employer will, right? And nobody's ever done that. Usually they look at me and they're just kind of like, wow, you really know what you're doing. You're good at your job. So, um, yeah, you know, the judge is, you know, never going to order them for any kind of counseling or anything like that. And what it is this is kind of the last resort. They want to get a psych eval on you. They want the psych eval to look bad, and they want the psych eval to, you know, kind of show that you have a mental disability or whatever, because if somebody goes back and pulls your case, right, they want to look at it and they want to, you know, it's all built up to make you look like you don't deserve custody of your kids, and that you're like, yeah, the other parent deserved to have custody. But really what they're doing is they've sold custody to your former spouse. So sounds crazy, I know. Look up the video because I'm going to do a video on this. So make sure you look up the video on how they sold custody in my case. So just know that this is all a part of the plan on what it is that they're doing. So thanks for watching my video, and I hope you learned something today.